Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hi, join us on Partnerships for Profit as we welcome Emily LaRusch, founder and CEO of Back Office Betties, a premier US-based virtual receptionist and admin staffing company helping small law firms thrive. Emily shares how she turned missed calls into a thriving enterprise built on culture, innovation, and impact. From her entrepreneurial journey to embracing ADHD and homeschooling her kids, Emily proves you can balance business and life while making a difference. Hello, Emily. Welcome.
Hi, Megan. You make it sound so much easier than it all was.
Oh, no. Like once you put things into little sentences and words like that, it does. It by no means encompasses the work that you put in. So let's kick things off with what makes Back Office Betties stand out. What's the craziest or most unexpected legal call your team has ever answered?
I think one of the wildest ones wasn't necessarily the call itself, but the type of call. We were getting a ton of calls for a law firm, and we found out that the solo lawyer didn't have anyone else on his staff, just him was dead. And so my team was just like, what do we do with this? I think most people would be like, well, the guy passed away, like shut it down. We felt like we owed his family and him a service. And so we kept his service going on for the whole month. We reached out to his family to ask, how do you want these calls handled? What messages do you want us to be giving? How do you want us to help support you guys through this transition? Because it was absolutely unexpected. And so I think the team really did a good job of rallying, but it was probably one of the weirdest things that we've had happen, where it was like there was no one else in the firm to go to and say, like, what do we do?
Yeah, like what?
It was just a hard
Who
stop.
answers the questions? What's
Yep, hard stop. Your case is closed.
right? Oh my gosh! And talk about personalized service you have going on there. I mean, and that I think that that's such a great example of how you serve people. I mean, whether they're responding or not.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So that is wild. So clearly no 2 days are the same at work. What's the number one mistake law firms make when handling their own phones?
I think it's, most times, and I think we all do this, whether it's phones or other parts of the business, is we'll hire a warm body and we kind of want them to be able to do a multitude of things. So oftentimes you'll have a paralegal answering, you kind of have people rotating. You
Yeah.
might have, we work with small firms, so they don't have a dedicated receptionist who's sitting there to answer the phones. And well, we're in the middle of a podcast. Imagine your phone's ringing right now and you say, oh, hold on, Emily, let me put you on hold. Well, you're
Right.
task switching, and task switching is awful. It ruins your train of thought. It takes you so much more time to get back into what you're doing. You might be annoyed at the interruption, and so you're
Mhm.
not giving the best service, and then you're not following a pattern and a script and a protocol for that role. And I feel like every role has got to have their roles very clearly defined,
Yeah.
including the receptionist. So when we work with law firms, like if they don't have something defined, we give it to them, where we create that structure of how do we handle, what's the triage, where do calls go. And I think, you've just got to make sure you have every role clearly defined and know what success looks like. And so
Mhm.
that way, when someone asks you what does success look like in your role, the person fulfilling the role should know absolutely hands down, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, and having clear defining messaging there. I mean, as in my history as a teacher, I mean, expectation management is everything, and it really helps keep people calm and steady and flow in the workplace place going well when there are, places you can when there is a given structure. And a lot of times that's lacking. And I find it so interesting that you are filling that gap.
I
For
love that you said expectation management. That's one of the things that I think about a lot in life, whether it's in relationships or whether it's answering
Mhm.
phones, is I always ask our clients, we need to set expectations from the jump, especially when it's a new caller. They should know what's going to happen next. They should know when they
Yeah,
can have a return call. So if your firm has a 48-hour policy, we should just be dropping that line. Hey, we return calls within 48 hours. Always
absolutely.
managing expectations. There's a great quote, and I can't remember it exactly right now, but it's something about unspoken expectations breed future resentments.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's a juicy one. Yeah. Who said that? I feel, I mean, but like expectation management is just like, it's huge, but especially when you're dealing with people and you're giving structure where there is no structure. And, like, here's what we can, here are our goals for the day, guys, that sort of thing. Um, moving along with these questions, it says, and when that mistake happens, so when something happens, it can cost a firm big time. Can you give us a jaw dropping example of how much money a missed call can actually cost a law firm? I'm excited to hear this one.
I can. And I may not have I don't follow our clients' cases, so I'm not asking
Mhm.
them what did the case come in at or what could it have missed. But I have a great example. So one of the biggest car accident settlements in California was $39 million.
Wow.
And so I think that's the biggest one to date. And so missing that phone call and could have cost that firm $39 million. And I picked California because one of my absolute favorite clients, who's a personal injury attorney, he has the biggest hurt in the world. We actually made like a gift of him, a gift with an angel halo over his head. And our team
Oh,
passes it around because the entire team's in love with this client. Just
oh.
like the world's greatest person, not an ambulance chaser, such a heart. And he's in California. And so I picked that example because if that were his firm and we missed that call, or his team missed the call and it went to voicemail and that family picked up and called someone else, that's $39 million worth of revenue that they could
Yeah.
miss.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge.
And on a
That's huge.
smaller side, a divorce case or something like that, about $3,000. And, we once answered phones for someone who was they're solo, they were doing it all themselves. And they actually told me, I need to turn these phones off. I can't have you answering them. We're getting so many calls. They had assumed that all these missed calls they were getting were mostly spam and they kind of overlooked it. When
Mhm.
we actually started answering and started booking, they were so overwhelmed. They had no idea how much business they were missing.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's really incredible, and it puts things into perspective too, with all these calls we have coming in these days. And I mean, especially like with my own phone, like I have so many different numbers popping up. I mean, be it for wild political reasons or, like anything. I feel like my phone's just going off all day long. But knowing which is important and which isn't, it was just, I mean, that's definitely time saving.
And Megan, for, $300 or $600 a month, if you're running a business, is it not worth it for you to have somebody else saying, okay, this one's spam, let me tell them to take us off the list, versus this one's actually a potential client, let me get them straight through
Yeah.
to Megan. I mean,
No, that's
so
that's
worth
very
it.
clear. Everybody should know these things by now,
Yeah.
and we have the intelligence to do so. That's so brilliant. So, w- let me see. All right. So, what's one thing most lawyers think they need in-house but could easily outsource instead?
My favorite one is paralegals. We opened up administrative services, fractional administrative services for law firms. And I'll give you a recent example. I know a gentleman in Austin. He runs a business law firm, and Mike has a team of about 10 people. For us, that's a fairly larger size firm to work with. But he had a full time in office person who's showing up every day and doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And the results were, well, a little bit good and a little bit not, and a little bit all over the place. And so he actually hired a couple of people within our team. And when you do that, he's getting specialist. And so he may not need one warm body for 40 hours, but he might need one specialist who's going to go in, knock out the work, A plus quality, do it
Yeah.
in 10 or 15 hours a week. And then another person who is a specialist, say in client services, who can knock that job out in say 20 hours a week. And so I think fractional resources and getting people who are
Mhm.
absolutely killers at what they do in those specific roles, it goes back to the roles. what does success look like? Make sure that they are A plus plus at that specific
Absolutely.
goal.
Like roles, that's networking, that's building your referral service to make sure that you're connected to the best people at all times. Because I mean, it really saves you money to pay someone to do something they've, the whole 10,000 hours thing, to do something that they've spent a ton of time becoming an expert at, so where they can answer a question in a few minutes,
Yeah.
that's so the more niche, the better. I love that. Um, so it says that ties directly into something I've heard you say before. It says, what's your favorite myth to bust about virtual legal assistance?
I think a good one is that the quality isn't there. And I think with the increase of overseas employees, that's really become really prevalent. So all of our team members are 100% US based. And so I think there's sometimes the idea that if I hire someone that they're not in my office and I'm not babysitting them and I
Mhm.
can't monitor the work that they're doing, that the quality's not going to be there. And I can absolutely tell you that's false. I opened my firm virtually, my company in 2014, because I couldn't afford an office. So this is way pre COVID. And what I
Okay.
found is like it expands the talent pool immensely. I have these incredible people who love the flexibility of being able to work from home, and they are
Mhm.
all star people. So it is out there and it's available. And so I think if you feel like you have to micromanage your people, there's probably something broken in your operating processes or in your management and leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. All right. So we've cleared some things up there. What's the secret sauce that makes a virtual assistant feel like a seamless part of the team?
Oh, Megan, don't hate me. I'm going to be a broken record here.
Okay,
It
right,
is
right.
having the operating system for your business has got to be on point. So you've got to have job descriptions. They have to know what success
Mhm.
looks like. Um, so that's going to be the biggest thing is just making sure that they know exactly what's expected of them and then doing check-ins. So
Mhm.
I'm a huge fan of whether it's a 10-minute check-in or a 15-minute check-in to do it every week. And in fact, just today, I developed this document that's called my manual. So as a manager, I'm going to share this user manual with my own assistant or with anyone else who works directly with me. And they understand that I would prefer an email or an instant message over a phone call. They're
Mhm.
going to know that my pet peeves are spelling and grammar errors. And so this user manual helps them understand me better, and that creates connection. And
Yeah.
then the other thing that I developed that I want to run out with all of my team members is getting to know your team. And so I created a document that's going to ask questions. I'm actually going to pull it up right now because I just did it with my first same page meeting with one of my team members. And I asked her what her personal goals are. I know about the work she does, I know how wonderful she is, but I didn't know anything about her personal goals or what she's trying to accomplish. And is there a way I can support or check in on her and create that rapport? And so I think those 10 or 15-minute connections each week are really important to create that camaraderie and to make sure that you are close and connected. And you know what? Your people are going to want to work harder and do better for you when they feel like they're a part of the team and connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can't go to my boss with some sort of, issue I'm having with work unless I feel like fully heard and understood, like someone's really looking and really listening,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
that's so
Absolutely. And I'll share like one of my on my user manual is my brain, ADHD, it goes really fast and
right.
sometimes I can communicate bluntly. I am not clear with details. And so on my user manual, I say that to everyone I work with up front. I am not going to get all the details right. Sometimes I don't think an idea all the way through and how it will impact other people and other teams. And you have my permission. If I'm short with you, if I don't give you enough details, you have my permission and encouragement to always ask questions and to provide me critical feedback about the way I'm communicating.
Mhm.
Because I know this about myself and I don't want to come across because I do care about you. And that goes a long way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so speaking of things, moving in a seamless fashion, I mean, which is kind of fun in any work environment to say seamless, but to smooth things out. Tech has to play a huge role in that. It really, really does. And I'm finding within my own work that the more automations there are, the more actual conversations I have to have with people, and which is the complete opposite of how I felt, coming into this different kind of work. So what tools or systems do you swear by to make all this work smoothly behind the scenes?
We use ChatGPT a ton. So we'll use it for helping us to craft responses to client reviews, things like that, things that are posted online, even internal communications. Recently, we used it to help us with our call flow forecasting. And this is something that used to take us 2 to 3 hours, and it computes all of the stuff and creates projections like in a matter of minutes. So that's
Wow.
been a big saver. Um, other tech that we use, we're not really hard tech heavy here.
Mhm.
So I'll say like things like Canva and things, basically tools that make our jobs easier. Google Suite and Canva and any integrations that we can have. Um, we use CoAssemble for training, which is a fun. And so it's a great way. It's a fun training tool. And so what we're looking for are things that kind of match our culture and our vibe and make our work a little bit more fun and easy.
Okay, all right. So after all, like with the right systems in place, scaling becomes a lot more realistic. At what point in a law firm's growth should they start thinking about bringing on a service like back office Betties?
Um, if you're a startup or a solo, I would say right away we have, really small few $100 a month plans for the virtual receptionist because even as a solo, you're going to have to go to court, you're going to have to do paperwork, have meetings, and you want your phones answered and done professionally. So we work with a ton of solos and it's just a few $100 a month. So right away, I know you guys had Cameron Harold on at one point, and Cameron Harold is fond of saying, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Hmm.
And so, even working with a virtual legal assistant or even an admin assistant, you can do that again. We start at like 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month. It's not a huge commitment. And so I would encourage anyone to make sure that you've got someone else supporting you, whether it's a receptionist, assistant, whatever it is, make sure you've got someone supporting you because no one can go it alone. Um,
Absolutely.
and then there's a tipping point, around $1 million in revenue, you start to get to that point where you need an executive team. And I got to this point myself. I knew I needed an executive team. It would have cost me, over $300,000 to have a full C-suite of employees. I think the total came out to like 600,000, which at $1 million, it ain't happening. So I'm a huge believer in fractional. And like I said, specialist in what they do. I didn't
Mhm.
want a warm body who could fill the seat of a COO. I wanted a COO level person who could maybe give me a few hours a week to help
Yeah,
advise on the strategy and the structure and the organization. And so I implemented that, around $1 million. It's really difficult to continue scaling if you do not have a solid executive team.
a full team. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, and I mean, no man is an island. No one can do this alone. And I mean, I just have so many friends who've tried. And that at the end of the day, I love what you said. I just have to like repeat that about like, if you don't have an assistant, you are your own assistant.
Yes. Yes. I just talked to one of my great friends. She's an integrative medicine practitioner, and she's been paying about 55,000 a year for a practice manager. And she does remote consultations all over the US. And so she's doing this, so she's paying, a great salary for this. And the person was just not the greatest. She'd have to go in behind her and do all these things. She found a virtual administrative company that strictly works with doctors. And so they're all of the people working with them know this field. So they came in, and the person she hired is in the Philippines, but she knows the industry because that's all this particular firm does is they are niche specialists. Now she took that salary from about 55,000 down to 18,000 a year. And this is an example of success using a very niche service.
Mhm.
So it can be done, and it doesn't have to be expensive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's zoom out for a second. How do you see the legal industry changing over the next 5 years? And where do virtual services fit in?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going virtual with their law firms.
Yeah.
Um, AI is definitely having a place in it, but AI still makes mistakes. So it's still too new to rely on if you're trying to do case research and briefs and things like that.
Yeah.
There's still too many mistakes in AI to rely on that. And here's the thing, Megan, this is something I believe in strongly and why I love service businesses. People to people is never going to go out of style. If you're
Yeah.
going through a hard time, if you spring a leak in your plumbing, you want someone live, a human who's compassionate, who can help you get through that, whether it's your plumbing leak or your legal struggle. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's ever going to go away. There's always going to be the human to human component.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it never helps to have that reminder of like you're not alone. Other people are in the same boat. We're all in this together, kind of thing. So, looking ahead is exciting, but let's end with something personal, okay? With for our last question. It
Sure.
says, "What's one thing you wish every entrepreneur knew before starting a service-based business?"
There are so many. There are so many things I wish I knew because I didn't know what I was doing. I was struggling and floundering for the first few years. I didn't make any money for several years. And so, something that I probably wish I knew early on is I thought that I had to, when I was out networking, of course, I want business. So, I'm putting on my happy sales face. Everything's great. I have this great
Yeah,
business.
do.
Yes, it's wonderful. Let's shake hands and kiss babies.
Right.
But what I really needed was a couple of entrepreneurs who were maybe further along than I was, or who even were just really good at one thing that I wasn't, and to humble myself enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing and ask for help. And when I first did this, I had a man running, a like an $8 million company, invite me into his office, have lunch
Mhm.
with him. He broke out all his numbers and he showed me how a call center, what our metrics should be, because I had no idea, not a
Yeah.
clue. And he got on the whiteboard. And so the thing that I want people to know, and I tell this to the inmates to entrepreneurs program all the time, do not let your lack of knowledge or lack of history in this industry or as an entrepreneur ever stop you from humbling yourself and asking for help. You are no different from where someone who's successful started 10 years ago. Um, and people are so willing to help. Like, I can't tell you how many people who've invited me in, opened their books, taught me management techniques, helped me look at things I was doing wrong. They wanted nothing back, but people in this community like to give back because we all remember what it was like in those early days. And so I always say, reach out to someone, maybe not in your city, but maybe someone in the same industry, but in another city or something like that, and just ask for help. And you'll be shocked at how many people say yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, as someone, like because I spent so much of my life teaching in public school, and everybody's overstretched and running a million different directions. I really found that it was my superpower at the end of the day to walk around and be like, so I know lots of things about lots of things, but I don't know anything about this. I need help with this specific thing. And so I love that you brought that up. Like, don't let your lack of knowledge get in the way. I mean, that could be a million different things, and the fact that that you don't have knowledge in that specific area is the beginning of learning, Um, and I love that. So it was such a pleasure to talk with you today, Emily. Um, like I really love everything that you had to share, and I love how personalized that your services that you're going for. And I thank you so much for being with us today on Partnerships for Profit.
My pleasure. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.